Okay, I don't know.
Sorry.
Hey, where's Stewie?
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. Okay, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's not right on the teleprompter.
There it is. We are going to do Sting, yeah.
There's no words there. To play us out. What does that mean, to play us out? To end the show?
Yeah.
All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today, and we'll leave you with it. I can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Stewie Griffin. Thanks for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
Stewie.
They have Thai boxing matches here, but around the boxing stadium or the court, the boxing ring, there are many bars.
Well, all right. I'm sorry about that. I really have to get a new computer, and I just obviously haven't been in the position to do so. So my apologies. That has to be maybe not priority 1, but priority 2, priority 3. Anyway. So Barbara was here, and I didn't get a chance to completely answer her question because I wanted to tell her that the shares at Fidelity that say Nextbridge are not Nextbridge. Only the shares that are transferred over to the transfer agent are Nextbridge. All right, let's see what love to hear your thoughts. Well, I think, Dominic, I had a couple thoughts about it. I think trade tariffs is the wrong way to go. That's what in history the Smoot-Hawley Act did and ruined. But on the other hand, maybe not, because we've become a financial economy. We've offshored all of our productive capacity, but we used to think we kind of controlled it. We don't. It's in China. China can produce. It's in Russia. It's not for us, but Russia can produce. Mexico maybe. So maybe tariffs make some sense. But I would say there must be a mechanism to collect taxes, perhaps other than tariffs, maybe value-added tax, which I really don't completely like. But Dominic, on the positive side of Trump saying, let's get rid of the income tax, I was just thinking that would be an amazing way to make the United States the center of economic power again in the world. Everybody would come here with their businesses, with their money, and I mean, it wouldn't happen overnight, but I would say within maybe a generation, we would be the economic powerhouse of the world. So it might have some sense. There's not a lot of comments here. There's only 43 watching. So yeah, I think anyway, I don't know what the reasons were, if there was more than what we've been told. But yeah, it's not so much that, Dominic, it's that he wanted to go against, apparently, the Federal Reserve and the creation of that currency. But anyway, lower taxes. Am I a Republican now? No, it's not. I don't know if that is a Republican Democratic issue. Like right now, Deacon Blues, I was talking to somebody. If if I pick one of our stocks, if I, what's one that might work? If you bought a stock now, Deacon, and sold it, it had a squeeze. So let's say you put I don't know, $10,000 in, and it squeezed, it became worth $300,000, and you sold it. You would have to pay capital gains tax, the Obamacare tax, your state tax, and maybe a local tax. You'd be lucky, out of your $300,000 profit, you'd be lucky to keep 150. So I don't know. Does that make me a Republican if I notice that the taxes are massive? But anyway, Deacon, it was more about thinking, because the question was, what do I think about getting rid of the income tax? There are other taxes in our lives other than income tax, but it really would jumpstart our economy, I would think. It really would. And then you'd have to study the velocity of money and other things. And to the extent that it created other revenue streams for the government, maybe it pays for itself. But Deacon, I don't know if that makes me a Republican. I really don't. I know I was making that example up. I think there were a lot of people that had big profits in some of these stocks and didn't take it off the table. And that's frustrating for people. They call me Crimson Tide. They call them Crimson Tide. They call me Deacon Blue. I want a name when they have a name for the winners in the world. I want a name. They call me Deacon. There's Patrice Smith. Hi. Big JR's back. I'm really sorry about that. We lost him, so we lost the raison to exist. I didn't have an agenda per se. I did want to talk to Barbara again because I didn't answer her question because Ham came on, but I really want to make it clear at Fidelity and at Schwab, they're naming the MMTLP counterfeit shares, Nextbridge. But I wanted to explain in my example of having, 21 million shares of Fidelity. If they have 210 million shares in their accounts and you leave it there, Fidelity for some reason got in trouble, you would think you would get 1/10 of a share payback because that's all they have is real shares. But the fact is they can also take that asset and offset other obligations elsewhere. So I think you're a lot better off at moving your shares to the transfer agent. Dominic, I'm a JFK Democrat, which makes me a Republican. Well, it does now. I really don't know what's happened to the Democratic Party. I mean, we're talking wacko city. Wacko. I was listening to a woman who immigrated from France, and she said, "Do you know how hard it was for me to get in this country? And I just want to go back and just go through Mexico." I was just reading an article while I was waiting for my computer to come back up. I don't know if I can find it. Let's see if there's any news on any SEC filings. We can do that. Let me just see if I can find this article, or was it here? Might have been on my phone. Yeah, it was on my phone. So I can get it on here so I can read it to you. This is from the Biden can't be our president again. Okay, so on the Daily Mail, of course, you're going to say you hate it, but America's migrant gang invasion mapped. ISIS in LA, Venezuelan sex traffickers in Texas, Chinese drug lords in Maine. Now check if a violent enclave has sprung up in your neighborhood. How could the Democratic Party stand for this? A brutal Venezuelan sex trafficking gang is now in America's biggest cities. Why is that good? A Chinese organized crime syndicates are running drug farms with slave labor in half a dozen U.S. states. Why is that good? Mexican drug cartels are operating vile human smuggling operations over the southern border with near impunity. Why is that good? By the way, this newspaper hates Trump, absolutely hates Trump. On Tuesday, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement apprehended 8 alleged ISIS operatives in Los Angeles, New York City, and Philadelphia. The thread tying all of these imminent public safety and national security threats together is a runaway illegal immigration crisis. This is what the Democratic Party stands for. AOC. Exposing America to an invasion of ghost criminals, paramilitary foot soldier, and potential terrorists. And I worry about disease. You don't screen anybody for contagious diseases. Oh, he's a racist. He says immigrants are rapists and drug dealers and gang members. This is a newspaper. It's not him. The new foreign menace has infiltrated the company, hiding among millions of desperate migrants. Now, more than 3.5 years after President Joe Biden's inauguration, Daily Mail is revealing the full devastating and perhaps irreversible impact of his administration's systemic dismantling of U.S. national security and the groups that have thrived off the lawless border. Go woke, go broke. Hire a lot of diversity, equity, inclusivity hires that have absolutely no skills and ruin your country. Prison gang makes America home. On June 3rd, 2 New York City police officers investigating a spate of robberies attempted to stop a young Hispanic man speeding the wrong way down a Queens street on a motorized scooter. A struggle ensued and the suspect pulled a gun and fired, striking one cop in his bullet restraint vest and the other in the leg. The officers were treated at the hospital and released. The Mata, the perp, was arrested and revealed to be living in the country illegally, having crossed into the United States in July through a busy migrant route at Eagle Pass, Texas. What's more, Mata is a suspected member of a brutal Venezuela prison gang, once virtually unknown in the United States. Now, authorities in New York, Chicago, Miami know the name, Tren de Arauga. The transnational criminal gang has humble origins in a Venezuelan prison. but its members have since exported their savage brand to America, hiding among millions of Venezuelan migrants who have fled the crumbling socialist dictatorship. The New York PD has come to call many of these thugs ghost criminals because they have no way to identify them except for their tattoos. Members of the gang cover their bodies in distinctive drawings of AK-47s and skulls clad in gas masks. There is no illicit activity that this gang trend is not involved in, but they specialize in some of the most repulsive and detestable crimes imaginable: sex trafficking and human smuggling. But hey, we don't have tweets anymore. Trump is a racist. We got to get that elegant guy, Joe Biden, in office. I don't, it makes me ill. It makes me ill. Well, yeah, Deacon, I think you're going to have a win in Nextbridge. You said you have a large position. The good thing, Deacon, even though it's uncomfortable, I was thinking about that after I got off the call last night. People are worried about having been robbed. Where's our money? And I was thinking about it. The concept people have is probably they were going to be able to trade the stock, which is reasonable. And they were able to get in and get out, go do something else. Well, here investors are in a private company and it's taking time. And many people don't like that. That's not comfortable, or it's not usual, because there's no there's no easy exit. But I actually think that you're lucky, Deacon, that you own shares that you can't sell, because you have a forced dividend, a discipline of waiting until the project works before you exit. Also, they're out there in force. They're in the Twitter spaces trying to get you not to move your shares and etc. But the shorts, the counterfeiters, can't do anything unless they get Nextbridge trading or MMTLP trading, which, by the way, is the advice this group of people have advised over and over and over again. And as long as they don't have that, Deacon, I already think your shares. Why don't we figure that out? I don't know if I'm right, but let's try. I wish I could find my small whiteboard. I wish I could find my small one. I wish I could find my thrill on Blueberry Hill. I have to use a paper towel. I wish I could. This is so big. But Deacon Blues, let's try to figure out what your shares are worth right now. I don't know how many you have. Well, let's figure out how much my shares are worth, because I don't know how many shares you have. I have I have 9624. I have 4,269 shares. Now let me go to, if I can find it, or maybe it's in a file here. I'll find it Maybe I can find it quicker by Googling it. Okay. I misspelled. Sorry, Deacon Blues. All right, let's see if it comes up. Okay, this is 21 pages. Let's see the date. March 2020, Deacon. I wish I had a computer so I could show it to you. But Torchlight Energy had an investor presentation on March 2020, and the front page says, largest domestic onshore new field discovery in over 30 years. So that's obviously domestic United States. And then they have a page that says forward-looking statements. Then they have investment highlights. Torchlight strategy is execute within the Permian Basin to swiftly and confidently create shareholder value through the development of its assets. The criminals destroyed Torchlight, and now they're in here trying to confuse you. The company has entered the Permian Basin at attractive valuations and is continuously seeking to expand its acreage position. That's interesting. All right, strategically diverse. Core assets are located in the Oro Grande, the Midland, which is Project Hazel. The Winkler project, I forgot about that. The Delaware Basin as well. Within each of these three basins, the company expects to drill and complete wells in the Wolfcamp A, B, C, in the upper and lower second Bone Spring, the third Bone Spring, and the Pennsylvanian in the Oro Grande. That all sounds probably like gibberish to everybody, but of course, you know, those are time zones, geologic time zones, eras. And if I add this up, you can't add it up. It's three different basins, but it's a lot of different targets. Some are shallow. Shallow isn't all that high, high daily flow rates, and it's not necessarily, pretty predictable. You're not going to have surprises that all of a sudden change the NAV beyond your predictions necessarily. It could happen, but not necessarily. All right. The company has completed extensive due diligence on each of its prospects prior to and since acquiring the acreage, including drilling scientific wells, science wells. In other words, you drill a well, it doesn't work, or you don't complete it, it's not a lost cause. You spent $1 million to drill a vertical, but you're able to run your tests, your logs, and etc., and you can then study each zone. They can perform modern shale logs, imaging logs, coring across its plays. Coring is when you take out the zone and then you bring it up and study it. I've been on rigs and they bring it out and they put it under fluorescent lights and go, wow, you got oil. Because if it's like when you were young and you had black light and you could see you could see the colors in the painting differently. I don't know. All right. Torchlight expects to drill and complete 6 gross wells, horizontal and vertical. All right, let's skip that. Leadership, experience, Rich Masterson. Wow. The team at that time came from Anadarko, Chesapeake, Concho, Petrohawk, Occidental, Shell, Maverick, and McKay Petroleum. Pretty impressive group. All right, so Project Hazel, Project Winkler, let's ignore those. The Oro Grande is in Texas, but it's kind of, it's the dinosaurs don't know the difference. It's kind of New Mexico too. So they had over 100,000 net acres. Now they have 134 because they increased it to 100% ownership. That's interesting. They did plan to market the company and the Oro Grande for sale to a larger exploration and production company in a stock sale. That's always possible again, I guess. All right, the Oro Grande, 134,000 gross acres. That's basically what they have now. They moved it up to 100%. They had, at that time, they had 5 wells. Let's not bore ourselves with the management team. I know this guy, Michael Graves. He wouldn't remember me. Okay, I've shown you the pictures of the Permian. I don't know if I can show it to you again. If it's up here, I can. I'm not going to try to find it, though. No. All right. No. I'm not going to try to find it. Take too long. But anyway, the Oro Grande in the Permian time frame, I think that says 275 million years ago. You had whatever this is, the Pedregosa Basin. But the Oro Grande is right next door to the Delaware. And then you have the Central Basin Platform uplift. And then you go the other side of that, you have the Midland Basin. Okay, here's what I wanted to find, Deacon Blues. I always get, all right, so the Oro Grande Basin is 134 acres. Next point, very large upside in potential hydrocarbon resources, recoverable. It's not saying, they're already adjusting it for how much is recoverable. They had a third-party valuation from Stimulation Petrophysics. The low side case, I'll write these down. Low side case, and this is when they only had 6 pilot wells. Now they have 15 or 20. All right, the low cut, and they now have 100% ownership instead of 75% ownership. So the low side case is 2.3 barrels. The median 3.7. And the high side 5.0. 6 pilot wells were drilled for data collection and 2 short horizontal tests. So I guess that's actually 8 wells. Or maybe the 2 horizontal tests were tests within the 6 pilots. Don't know for sure. So the A25 number 1 well is horizontal and productive. Going to the gentleman yesterday whose name was? Can't remember. The A25 short horizontal produced 2.2 million cubic feet of natural gas initially a day. The A25 was drilled to the Woodford. It was cased and awaiting testing. I assume they've tested it. The A35 number 1 horizontal established oil and gas, and it produced 33 barrels of oil equivalent per day. This is all 5 years ago or more. But anyway, that's a vertical. I don't know if they fracked it. They certainly didn't go long horizontal, but this proves that the oil is there. It's unconventional and conventional reservoir targets. In other words, some of the things they puncture into will flow. You won't have to do much initially. The water, there might be a water drive, might be a gas drive, but there should be energy, they call it, to push the oil up the pipe. The unconventional is when you go horizontal and you frack it, and you set pipe, but then you go into those sands, and fracking is just setting off a bunch of explosions that puncture into the rock. It's like you can do it with water, you can do it with sand, they call it. You can do it with gas, and the idea is you create fractures in the rock, and the gas and the oil can flow more quickly and in greater volume. Okay, so the net present value per well in each major zone, by scoping economics, they depicted each major zone in the net present value of the well, or basically you take a model of what your oil price is, and then you present value it maybe by 10%. It doesn't say here, maybe 20%. Anyway, each well the value ranges from 4.6 million to 10.3 million pre-tax each well. I don't know how much it costs to drill them. So it's a new field discovery. In this presentation, they had a 72.5% working interest. They now own 100%. They drilled 6 vertical test wells. They finished drilling a 2-well program. They confirmed the Barnett and Woodford across the acreage. So that's a blanket sand. Bravo. They confirmed oil and gas from short horizontal wells in the upper, or one short horizontal in the upper Pennsylvanian. They first drilled the horizontal in 2018. They completed and tested. They were positive with 2.2 million cubic feet produced per day. They choked it back to 1.2 million cubic feet per day. Choking it back means you're not letting the pressure, you're not letting the well basically go out of control, which I'm sure it wouldn't, but you're trying to control the production. And the implication is that you can produce at your IP, your initial production rate, without decline for a longer time. Each of these wells will have a decline rate. The fact that it's choked back and they produced at this lower rate 1.2 million cubic feet, that means the economics that you project at 1.2 million cubic feet could last a while. I don't know how long, it doesn't say here, before the decline rate kicks in. It's a good thing. The second horizontal, they did 15 barrels of oil per day, 120 MCF of gas per day. So the equivalent was 33 barrels of oil a day. It was a 100-foot horizontal interval. So it wasn't It wasn't a very long well. So what that means is they can go down, and once they have a platform, they can go down and drill out a mile, drill out 2 miles or longer. They can do a Christmas tree in one direction. They can do it in another. So it's all, this is good science information for when they do well, here he says they have a potential. Okay, why don't I shut up and just read? Is that what you're saying? All right, I'll shut up and just read what they say. So this data implies the potential for a 1,500 barrel of oil a day well with 10 million cubic feet of natural gas from a 10,000 foot lateral. So they've targeted, it's good oil, by the way, but they've targeted, so they've proven to their satisfaction, maybe not to the market, that they have the potential to drill long laterals, and they can develop 1,500 barrels of oil a day. Let's ignore the natural gas. Let's just ignore it. Let's just focus on the oil. 1,500 barrels of oil. Target bench characteristics. Oil and gas confirmed. Potential from the shallow Wolfcamp. They've confirmed the Penn silt package of over 600 to 800 feet. 600 to 800 feet. Let me just, gosh, can't find my phone. So let me do it this way. Okay, just for comparison, the Statue of Liberty is 300 feet tall. 300 feet tall. The Eiffel Tower is 984 feet tall. So now I've lost my place. It's a problem. When you listen to me, I'm so disorganized, I lose my place. So this is 600 to 800 feet tall. I can just find it again. All right, let's just Google it again. Okay. So they found in their target bench the confirmed Penn silt package of over 600 to 800 feet, almost as tall as the Eiffel Tower and twice as tall as the Statue of Liberty. And they have a confirmed structural pay from the Atoka. Pay zone depths at 3,000 feet to 7,500 feet, with the primary Penn play, that is the thick one. The primary zone is 5,300 feet to 5,900 feet. So that's 600 feet 600 feet. Based on a similar Midland Basin, which geologically is right next door, the potential EURs are 4 to 6 million barrels per section. And each section you could have 12 to 18 horizontal wells. So you could have 12 to 18 horizontal wells with the EUR of 4 to 6 million barrels per section. So the EUR is the ultimate recovery. They have 4 to 6 benches in the upper Penn Formation. They have the potential 3.7 billion barrels recoverable reserve, includes the Wolfcamp, Upper Penn, Barnett, and Woodford unconventional zones. I can't show you this map, but it's a huge seismic. I mean, I don't know if you call this a trap, but we're caught in a trap. We can't get out. But I love you, baby, baby. All right, I've gone through this before. I won't compare the Midland to the Oro Grande, but the Oro Grande is better. All right, so let's go back here. The low side, it's 2.3 billion barrels. The medium is 3.7, and the high side is 5.0. That was with 6 wells drilled, and that's before they drilled their additional wells. That was at 72% ownership, not 100%. So I'm going to use 2.3 million. Let me try that. 2300 billion. Sorry, billion. Divided by. Okay, so Deacon, I know I'm going off track, but if we take 2.3 billion barrels is 72%, and now they own 100%, I'm taking the low end of the range, but I'm adjusting it for being 100%. It comes out to 3.2 billion barrels. Okay. All right. Now, the WTI price right now, let's not use that. Let's use, let's just use what Exxon paid for producing oil 6 months ago. But oil was cheaper then. They bought Pioneer at $30 a barrel in the ground, but it was producing. It's a manufacturing machine. Let's not use 30. Let's use half of 30, $15. Let's say an acquisition is done at $15 per barrel, or more than an acquisition. Let's just say a valuation is done at $15 per barrel. That gives 48 billion. And then let's say we're not going to focus on the fact that they need to give us our shares non-diluted in a settlement and all that. Let's just go with how many shares are out right now. I think it's I don't know. I think it's about 250 million. Let's call it 260 million shares. So that gets divided by 260 million shares. And it, just rounding it up slightly, it gives a value right now, Deacon Blues, in the ground right now. If I use Deacon Blues, if I use the low end of the torchlight presentation of recoverable barrels of oil, I adjusted that they own 100% of that. So I'm using the low end. Instead of making the acquisition $30 a barrel like Exxon paid, I've adjusted it for the fact that it's not producing like a machine. I used $15 per barrel as a valuation. The fact is, on an engineering report, they're going to use the WTI strip, and they're going to go out 10 years or 20 years, whatever, and then drop the economics. And then they're going to adjust. That'll give a number for the proof producing, proof behind pipe, the proved non-developed, the possible, and the probable and the possible. And then they risk each of those. So the economic model comes up with a lower price by risking. But anyway, here I just used $15 a barrel. Oil right now is over $80. So I came up with a value right now, Deacon Blues, of 48 billion. The number of shares outstanding is 260. That's $185 a share. Now, you can discount that. You can poo-poo that. You can say, oh, the company's never announced that. Oh, we've never seen it. Anything you can say. It's all made up. If it was so good, why don't they announce it? How come Torchlight couldn't do it back then? You can come up with all sorts of boo bird negativity. But Deacon, I don't know how many shares you have, but I'm going to show you what my shares might be worth. Right now. So Deacon Blues, my paltry 4,269 shares at 185 could be worth $750,000 right now. Now, if you want to be all negativo and you want to haircut it and cut it, go ahead. Obviously, 750,000, 790,000. You can call it 500,000, call it 250,000, call it 100,000. But Deacon Blues, I think I was pretty conservative using the data the company Torchlight provided. It's not my data. But I made low assumptions. I left out natural gas altogether. I left out Louisiana altogether. I left out the other two projects. So Deacon Blues. I can't spell, so sorry. So anyway, Deacon Blues, as I see the situation, the people on Twitter who have a completely different point of view, and it's all about choice, they're saying leave your shares in the counterfeit. It's either called MMTLP or Nextbridge at your broker. What the counterfeit shares are hoping for is the result from a lawsuit. When, I don't know. How much, we don't know. They're waiting for results for Congress. When, I don't know. How much, I don't know. They're waiting for a settlement with Wall Street. When, I don't know. How much, I don't know. But this gives you the ability to sit and be a victim and hope someone does all this. Or you can transfer to Nextbridge, and in my shares, my little shares here, right here, I'm just talking about me, at least on paper, conceptually, before they drill any more well, before they drill more wells, they expand the knowledge of it, I might have $750,000. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Sit with counterfeit shares or go get real shares. Be a victim and hope someone comes and helps, or take control of my own financial situation. And the company's already worth, in my case, I forgot how many shares I have, 4,269. In my case, it might be worth this much money at $180 a share. That might be low. Remember, McCabe asked for 600. But you can cut that. If you don't believe that number, cut it in half. Cut it by a quarter. Take 10% of that number. 10% of that number, I have $80,000. Isn't knowing that I have a real asset, which can benefit from any of these settlements, isn't knowing I have a real asset better than hanging on to a piece of counterfeit shit that may or may not get a lawsuit reward, and it may or may not happen in the next decade, may or may not get Congress to do something, and it may or may not happen in the next decade, that Wall Street may or may not give a settlement, and we don't know how much. It could be puny, and it may or may not happen in a decade, and it could happen in a month. I don't know. But in the meantime, I'm taking control over my own situation, and I'm using a low number, a low valuation. Remember, I used the low end of Torchlight's projections of recoverable shares. The only adjustment I made was to change it from 72% ownership to 100%. I just don't see how anybody that comes and attacks me can tell me that this opinion of mine deserves all the hatred that's given. I don't get it. So Deacon Blue, in my personal decision, which I'm showing you, I'm sitting here thinking I have 4,269 counterfeit shares. I wanted to trade them. I wanted to get out. I'd love to have that money. It would help me pay obligations, but I can't. I can't turn the clock back. I can't make Wall Street give me 2 days of trading that's going to work. I'd love to get that $2,400 a share that's in the lawsuit that were executed trades in those 2-day periods. But Jessica Hopper and Robert Cook and Gary Gensler colluded to take that away. So I can sit here saying, gosh, I should have gotten that. But I can't go back and do that. So what I'm hoping is Richard, who I'm not paying, or Mark Bazile, who I'm not paying, or Wes Christian, who I'm not paying, or Tara, Rosa in Florida, their lawsuits are going to somehow redound to me. But I don't have an attorney. I can't afford an attorney. Most of the community thinks I'm soulless and I'm not going to heaven. They won't pay my way. So I'm hoping somebody else funds a lawsuit. Who? Attorney generals? Attorney generals are going after porn stars and presidents up in New York. So I think I don't know who's going to do this lawsuit. I don't know who's going to pay for it. I don't know what their motives are going to be. I don't know if they're going to pay me $1, $2, try to get out of this for $50. I don't know if they're going to stretch it out for another 8 years or 8 months. I know nothing. So I'm sitting here thinking, nah, I'll stay over here in my counterfeit shares. That guy on Twitter told me that's the best place to be because I get more choices. He also told me this might start trading soon, very soon. And if I move over here to claim my value, I'm going to miss out on trading it out at 5 cents a share. If he gets it trading for his friends, the hedge funds that criminalize this, they're not going to let it trade at $2,400 a share. I don't think they'll let it trade at $24 a share. Then I'm sitting here thinking, what has Congress done? I've gone into meeting after meeting. I've walked into the halls. I've tried to speak to senators and congressmen. I've managed to get into some. I've smiled at some. I said hi to Bernie Sanders. I saw the alligator in Senator Kennedy's office. I saw that AOC doesn't go to her office, but she has a lot of messages there saying, we love you, AOC. I went to Anna Paulina's office hoping to tell her that if she ever considers being single again. No, I'm making that up. I didn't see her. I went to Byron Donald's office 3 times. I never got to see him. I went and saw legislative aides. I walked until my feet hurt. I did it many times. I saw Pete Sessions alone without any of you guys at a table for 45 minutes with a bunch of pica brothers, because I'm a pica, or down there you call them pikes. And it was me, Pete, one guy on my left, two guys on my right. And we talked about the markets. I'm not going to say what the other discussions were. That's not appropriate. And I'm not going to say anything he said about this. That's also not appropriate. But I've been there. And is Congress going to do anything? I think they are eventually. But when and at what price? And are the lobbyists going to come in and say that I didn't buy my shares at the right time? I bought my shares in the last week. I didn't hang on to my shares for the years. Or are they going to say that I was speculating? Or are they going to say that my shares, I bought at $8 and I got defrauded, but the system is too big to fail. So why don't we pay him $8 plus legal fees plus a rate of return? Let's give him $15. I don't know. But we're hoping that Don Fizz, because I'm not doing Don's work, we're hoping Anna, Queen of Trades, when we don't make fun of her and hold space calls to attack her, we're hoping she gets a result. We're hoping, I think her name is Jennifer out of one of the northern states. We're hoping Busy Brands gets a result. But I'm going to sit here and hope that Congress does something. Or I can move over and make sure I own my physical shares based on the valuation right now. I can't trade it, but based on the valuation right now, which I think is conservative, could be worth $750,000. And if I'm wrong, take 10% of it. It could be worth $80,000. Do I want to move over there, still be able to have a lawsuit return, still be able to have Congress return? Or I'll just wait over here with my counterfeit shares. Counterfeit's better than real. Remember that. All my life, I've been told it's better to own a counterfeit Rolex than the real Rolex. Always better to own counterfeit than real. Counterfeit gives you more choices. Just listen to the people on Twitter. Don't be bullied into going for the real shares. That's just somebody talking to you. Listen to us. Counterfeit gives you more choices. And Wall Street settlement, you know by now, Wall Street is in on this. They're not going to settle until they have to. They're not going to settle until they're scared to lose money or one of these others works out. But if this doesn't work out, Wall Street settlement's going to be de minimis. So ask yourself, why do the people on Twitter tell you to stay in counterfeit shares? Who does it benefit? Chi bene. Who does it benefit? It benefits the shorts. So who are those people giving that advice working for? You or for the shorts? I don't know. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. But by the way, if only 20% of us or so move over here, I think we'll fill up the bus. And then the rest of us can't move over. It's too late. But by the majority of people moving over, Greg McCabe can go make a settlement. And I believe Greg McCabe will make a settlement for everybody. So I don't think people here will be left behind. But Greg McCabe out of operations is responsible to my shares because I own Nextbridge. So this value is owed to me. in some form, fashion, fluctuating, sale, dividends, distribution. But he doesn't owe any of that to you that stay in the counterfeit shares. But if there's a settlement in a lawsuit over the short squeeze, if there's a settlement over criminal behavior, I think it'll be spread all over. If Congress comes in and does something, I personally think they're going to say, well, wait a minute, we will cover the description you have, but we have to net it out against the value that is there. And Wall Street's going to make a similar argument, and they're going to delay it. Wall Street, believe it or not, counterfeiters, Wall Street might come out and say, you know what? We're going to agree to settle this class action suit. We will agree with $185 a share, which is the number I have here. But I think a settlement would be higher. $185 per share. But we're going to pay it out over 10 years in discounted commissions, or we're going to pay it out in, we're going to give you, I don't know, some piece of paper for it. It's hard to create an idea, but my point is they may not give cash. They may give some sort of cockamamie discount. They could say, we're going to give you, 10 cruises. I don't know. My point is they're going to do everything they can to stay alive. Now, the most likely thing is they give cash. But when and how much, I don't know. So I'm sitting here thinking, and my first shares I got last August, and that was a pretty easy call. Although I was, I would have liked to have the ability to sell that. And I was listening, it's going to trade, it's going to trade. Those people on Twitter, they've been saying since the start, and they know, they put all the information in. I don't have all information. So therefore, I come to false conclusions. But anyway, they were saying it's going to trade. 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 I had dinner with Don Fizz, who works his butt off, absolutely works his butt off. He took me to Cafe Milano with LT, which is very kind of him. And at that time, he really believed we were on the verge of a global settlement. And I could tell he believed it. He just could sense it. But guess what? The lobbyists, Wall Street, the lawyers on the other side are more powerful than we are with Congress for the time being. I think it's going to change, but for the time being. So there hasn't been a settlement. Now, where a settlement could come out of the blue, what if an attorney general like Letitia James got her head out of her boyfriend's lap, or Alan Bragg stopped going after turning one misdemeanor into 35 felonies? What if he went after real criminals? What if he brought in the police department? Or what if the IRS brought in people to arrest? Or what if, Ham had said that the DOJ is looking into all this? Maybe that could move some things here. But again, what price? When? Dollars per share? Hundreds of dollars per share? Is Congress going to say these banks are too big to fail and make us pay? I don't know. So I'm looking at all this and I'm thinking to myself, I've been listening to these guys on Twitter and girls on Twitter, and they're saying the best place for me to stay is with my counterfeit shares. FINRA owes me. TradeStation proves there's an overage. Check law cases. consider all the legal implications before I move over here. You better stay here because there's legal implications if you move over here. I'm thinking about all that. Well, they weren't right in the first quarter of 2023. They weren't right in the second quarter of 2023. They weren't right in the third quarter of 2023. So I asked for my first shares. Actually, I got them in August. And I'm not blaming them for not being correct. It's just it wasn't working. And I could stay and say, you know what? It's going to work. It's going to work. It's going to work. Or I say, wait a minute. I have a chance. I can move my counterfeit shares to real shares for $60. I don't have to get a lawyer. I don't have to go to court. I don't have to go down to the SEC, which I've done dozens, probably 3 dozen times. So I can do that. I can take my counterfeit and make it real. I can do that. I don't have to ask anybody's permission. I don't have to be a victim. I said to myself, I'm going to do that. I did it with my real account. I moved over in August 1 of 2023. I didn't do it with my IRA for tax reasons, for wanting to see what happened with MMTLP, trying to do half and half. The idea that there's tax consequences. And then toward the end of 2023, I was absolutely convinced they would never let me move. Surely they would never let me move my counterfeit shares to my real shares because they've made it difficult and the whole system is oversubscribed. Everybody must be moving over. So in January of this year, I moved my Nextbridge from my IRA to my regular account. I called several times and I filled out whatever form to have it distributed. I kept calling from time to time. And on March 28th, they sent it to me. Now they tell me something like February 1 or February 15th was the official date that I requested it, but that's in their notes. It's not in mine. So it took anywhere from 6 weeks to 3 months. So I moved that. So now I've moved my counterfeit shares into real. I still have access to all these question marks, but I no longer have to listen to advice on Twitter. I no longer have to hope that Gary Gensler grows a pair of balls. I no longer have to worry if Adina Friedman is going to realize she has a job to do and she's not, just by being the first woman in the job isn't really what it's all about. It's about doing the job. Robert Cook doesn't have a pair to grow, and I don't have to ask my broker dealer. I don't have to go sit and look at Maxine Waters' sour puss for 3 hours. I don't have to do any of this. I don't have to hire an attorney. I don't have to try to find people on Wall Street. I don't have that. Maybe that gets done. Maybe it doesn't. And I'm certainly working very hard to do all of this and will continue to. But I don't have to rely on the vagaries of a corrupt system and the lawyers funded on the other side from Gibson Dunn. I don't have to rely on the lies and the obfuscation. I now own real shares. I still get the benefit of all this, but I have real shares. Well, no, you want to wait over here because that way you have a claim against FINRA and your broker dealer because they didn't deliver your shares automatically. Well, how long is that going to stand up in court? I went to Duke Zebert's. I was here at 7:30 with my party. We ordered a bottle of wine, 2 bottles of sparkling water, and we ordered a starter, and we ordered our steak, and we had asked for a chocolate souffle. We ordered at 7:30. It's 11 o'clock, and you served the whole restaurant. Well, sir, we've run out of the Duke salad, and we've run out of the prime rib, and we've run out of souffle. Well, wait a minute, I ordered it first. This is not fair. Well, sir, you could see the waiters were busy. Did you ever get the waiter's attention? No, I really didn't. I just figured the waiter would come over. I didn't do anything. Did you get up and talk to the head waiter? No, I didn't. So you've been sitting here for 4 hours. You put your order in 4 hours ago. Nobody brought it to you, and you didn't ask anybody? I don't understand. I'll give you, a free bottle of wine the next time you visit Duke Zebert's, but I'm not going to, I don't understand. Your behavior confuses me. It's the same shit here. The idea that you don't ask for your shares and therefore you have a claim against your broker dealer and everybody else may or may not be true. I think it'll only be evident if we get lucky enough and everybody moves over here before these lawsuits start. And if there's a global settlement. But in the meantime, I said to myself, okay, the advice on Twitter is stick with the counterfeit shares. It gives you, it's your choice, remember. And we've already proven, and we can use affidavits. Nobody is moving their shares voluntarily, but we can count on this 65,000 people to print out, sign, attach statements, do it in front of a notary public, and then return to a designated independent auditor affidavits. Yeah, that's right. I'll just stay in the counterfeit because I know this group is going to send enough affidavits. I don't have to go get my real property. I know that Wall Street owes me the value of my real property. It's sitting over there. I'll let somebody else go get the real property. I'll just wait here and somebody will give a lawsuit. Somebody at Congress is going to help me. And surely somebody at Wall Street owes me a settlement. I've called Congress. I've called the SEC. I've stood out front of with the truck. I've done videos. I've written letters. But certainly they're going to do something to give me this value. And maybe more. Well, I don't see, perhaps it's just because I'm a man and I don't see there's something wrong with me. But to me, if I'm counting on all of these variables and these people to help me to get that value, why don't I just go get that value myself? And it's free, $60. I can go get that value. It's just waiting to pick. It's like dollars on a sidewalk, $10 bill on the sidewalk. Just bend over and pick it up. It's right there. But the argument is I should stay over here because it's personal choice and I have more options. Well, these options, why don't I say to myself, I said to myself, why don't I leave myself in play for this option, this option, this option, but add to my options owning the real shares. So I'm actually picking up an option. I'm actually giving myself more choices. And then this year, I was so scared that I wouldn't get my physical shares because surely everybody was in, because at some point the bus will fill up and I won't have that option anymore. I won't have that choice anymore. It's all about personal choice. That personal choice will be gone as soon as the bus is full. And the underlying oil and gas assets go there. They don't go here. Counterfeit shares don't own anything. They're not going to get dividends or distributions. But the advice on Twitter, the bullying, the ridicule, is that you should just cling hard to your counterfeit shares. So anyway, I guess I've gone on a while. This is my example. That's my shares. That's what I think they're worth right now on paper, conservatively. You can cut that down if you want. But after maybe a year, that number could go up quite a bit. And so I don't know, Deacon, what you own, but I think you can multiply it by $185 a share. And I think that's a conservative number. All right, I bored everyone with this. My mouse isn't working. My mouse isn't working. Ah, there, connection lost. Is that a movie, Connection Lost? There, it's connected. Everything on my computer is frozen. After listening to you, William, I'm moving my 500 shares from E-Trade Monday. Yay. And Bill, of course, it's not financial advice. It's not legal advice. I just told you my thought process. I told you what I think my shares are worth. I gave it to you. That's me. I'm not telling you your story. Grasso, sorry. Grasso, I don't think would sound that way, or maybe it does. Lugrasso. I have 1,272. Yay, yay. So let me just use your number. 1272 times 185. That's 235,000 if I'm right. It's no guarantee I'm right. 500 shares. 500 shares times 185. 92 grand. All right, let's see. I think regardless where your shares are, we were all victims of criminal activity. We should all be like, yeah, I agree, legal compensation. Yeah, but at AST, we have future income. Northern Louisiana, I think NLA means. I think, I don't know what NLA, sorry, I don't know what NLA is. I know, Bill, I'm not holding you responsible for my decision. And it's a Florida University to Drew. I know what FU means. I'm asking your broker to, sorry, Alan, my left eye, yeah, it's just, so anyway, I don't want to complain. Just let me blink a bit. Okay. Is asking your broker to register MMTLP shares in your name at American Stock Transfer a possible way to get Nextbridge for people that can't transfer their shares and unders? and then a call by us. Yeah, Alan, it's possible. Let me think. Um, they're still going to ask for money to cover, I think, to cover the cost of the FedEx. Alan, I think the thing to do, if you don't have the money, I really think you should put it in writing, an email to the brokerage house and say, look, you did not settle my trades back in whenever you bought it because of your failure. Use your own words and don't be, I guess, overly combative, but say, because of your failure to locate shares to settle my trade, and it's done on a system-wide basis, you were unable to deliver to me automatically my shares. Now, what we don't know is if they would have debited your account $35, $40 anyway. I don't know that. There's always fees on Wall Street. But I think I would plead, I don't have the money. It's your responsibility. It's 550 days later. I request that you transfer my shares for free and put it in writing, put it in an email. At least it's in the record that you asked. And then when it goes to the court and the court's going to say to Fidelity, do you mean to tell me, Fidelity, that this client who has a small account, that you abused a small, and the system abused a small investor, and the reason that that investor could not take advantage of her real property is because she couldn't afford $60 and you wouldn't waive the fee? Guess what, Fidelity? You had use of their money. What did you do with that money, Fidelity? The money that that client sent to you to buy shares, you never settled the trade. So that money's, you used that money all this time. You know what? You didn't want to transfer those shares for free. You didn't do it for $60. I'm going to find the bloody heck out of you, Fidelity. So I think I would write I'd ask in person, and then I'd write a letter. Here's my request to transfer my shares to AST, and I do not, because it's your responsibility, because I can't afford it, and because this should have been done a year and a half ago, my request is you do it without charge. I expect you to do it. And I would copy the SEC. Copy somebody. Copy your own files. Rick Ippolito Rigatoni. Not bored at all with what you said, William. All right. Well, at least I didn't bore someone. GME, July 18th. Okay. Oh, NLA. John, do you sometimes think that I must have the thickest head on the planet? I thought it meant North Louisiana. I'm a little embarrassed. How will we be able to sell our Nextbridge shares if we transfer? Well, you can't sell MMTLP. You can't sell MMTLP right now, and probably never. Probably the liquidity event for MMTLP will be, one of those three avenues or all of them of a settlement. But you'll never get a dividend in MMTLP. You'll never get your share of a distribution from selling the McCollum well in southern Louisiana that found, $200 million worth of reserves, and to our interest, it was worth, I don't know, I'm making it up, to our interest, to Nextbridge's interest, of worth 50 million, and Nextbridge decides to distribute 25 million and put 25 million in the ground. You're not going to get that liquidity event if you're in MMTLP. If you're in Nextbridge, the argument is, Jay Lee, that MMTLP could start trading at any time. That's true. I don't think it should, because anything can happen. MMTLP, there could be a settlement at any time, don't do anything. Well, I guess these two eventualities have at least a small chance of happening, 1% each. But I really don't think trading can happen quickly at all, because you're going to, Jay Lee, you're going to have to get releases. Probably, my guess is somewhere between 250 and 400 lawyers are going to demand that the process is made clear to the group, that there's a black and white, I don't know if it'd be a prospectus or agreed document that goes probably through the SEC. It'll be filed so the public can see it. There'll be questions from the commissioners going back to everybody, and it'll then have to be approved by the SEC. It might have to be approved by a committee in Congress. And certainly those 300 or 400 lawyers are going to request releases. The criminals are going to want a release that they don't go to prison. The broker dealers, who, if they contribute to a settlement, are going to want to release that this is the last payment they make. And they're going to want to release that this payout they're making covers the entire class, so that one holdout can't hold them up for $100 million. They're probably going to ask a release that makes sure that the crime never sees the light of day. On our side, we're going to want the other side to release, to sign that they put the money in escrow. And we're going to say that when we sign our document, the money transfers that day. We're going to want the other side to agree to pay our attorney fees. We're going to demand the other side pays immediately, not spread out over time. So my point is, Jay Lee, there is not going to be a liquidation event of MMTLP, the counterfeit shares, that happens in the dead of night, or the bus isn't going to leave the station without putting out Greyhound bus for Altoona, Buffalo, Watertown, and Montreal. All passengers aboard, leaving in 15 minutes. You're going to have time. It's not, so the idea that if you're at Nextbridge, you're not going to have time to do one of two things. I think that you'll be given this option, because the problem is so big to the criminals. The reason the criminals have people on Twitter, they want you to do nothing. They want you to get so tired you go away. They don't want Congress to know that this is a bit, not only a big problem, but the criminals are doing it in every stock that's under $1 billion. They don't want to miss their kickbacks and their payouts. if they're successful. But the criminals do not want you to do anything because they don't want to have a big payout. So if you stay with the counterfeit shares for the rest of time, they're going to be able to say, Congress, what Greg McCabe says isn't true. There's no overage. Oh, yeah, sure, there's a little bit at TradeStation, but there's nothing in the rest of the system. We're not selling counterfeit shares. There's systems in place. They're just speculating. Look at Professor Angel. He told you. Look at what the lobbyist for Goldman Sachs is saying. Look what the lobbyist for Ann Wagner is saying. Come on. There's nothing to see here. That's what these people on Twitter want the criminals to be able to say. There's nothing to see here. So if we don't transfer, enough of us, we don't all have to transfer. If we don't fill up the bus, they could continue to say there's no problem. That's the goal right now. That is the goal right now. The other goal is if Nextbridge can't get control of its own cap table, capitalization table, if it can't know its own customers, if it cannot allocate its full share, physical shares to people it knows, it may be, this is the thinking going on in the criminal camp, it may be very hard for Nextbridge to raise enough money to drill the wells, and maybe we can drive Nextbridge into losing its leases and into bankruptcy, like, practically, like we did Torchlight and like we're trying to do to MMAT. We can destroy Nextbridge's ability. We've never faced this before, the criminals are saying, but it's just a private company. All we have to do is convince them that they should start trading. Then we can destroy the stock price. When they go to raise money, they'll do it at $1 instead of at $100. And since we've been shorting the stock from $12 down, and maybe we can get them to do it at 50 cents. And if we can get them to start trading again, we can start selling shares that don't exist from Saigon, from Panama, from Dusseldorf, from Manchester City, and we can really destroy that per share value of the Oro Grande. What if they have 13 billion barrels of oil that they can recover? What if they do? We'll just sell 100 billion shares of stock. And when they have to go to the market, we'll be the providers, because there is no market, contrary to what Gary Gensler lies about, or he's an idiot. There is no deep market for most any stock other than the big 8 or the chosen ones by Wall Street. There is no capital formation. So they'll come somehow through our network. When Nextbridge has to come for money, they'll come through us. They'll go to Roth Capital. But then when they go to Roth Capital make 3 phone calls. It'll be to that hedge fund, and that hedge fund. Guess what? We, as the shorts, we will prearrange with that hedge fund, and we'll be the buyers. That's what they're thinking. The criminals want to have that dynamic. How does it work? Get you to stay in your counterfeits, get time to go by, get you to be panicked, and make it impossible, they think, for Nextbridge to raise money to drill and prove up their reserves. But guess what? The beauty is of Nextbridge. Management there, and I don't think I'm disclosing a secret, because I think he said it in Spaces. John Berta told me that if they did a deal with Alex Montano, who's my friend over at Roth Capital, and I'm not accusing Roth Capital or Alex of anything wrong, by the way. John Berta arranged a veto on which hedge funds, which family offices could actually buy the stock. So the management of Nextbridge is already they're already coach, KOCH. They're already coke blocking the shorts being able to destroy Nextbridge's asset on a per share basis. They're already thinking like that. So we're lucky about that. So the criminal strategy, which is the only one they have, is not going to work. At least it looks that way. Secondly, the great advantage we have with Nextbridge, the thing that scares the heck out of the people that are short, counterfeit, overextended on a massive scale. I've heard 1 billion shares. I've heard 600 million to 1.2 billion shares. What's the number? I don't know. We're asking Ann Wagner. We're asking for Blue Sheets. We're asking for Gary Gensler to stop making videos so that he's not good looking. Gary Gensler, you're not good looking. You have no charisma. Nobody likes you. They don't want to watch your videos. You're not leaving a legacy. Just do your job. Gensler, do your job. You were unpopular in high school. You're unpopular now with $125 million. Stop chasing the dream of being popular in high school. Get over it. Just do your job. But anyway, we're asking to find out what that number is. Nobody knows. It's not going to get done by affidavits. There's a brilliant website out there called Retail. Anyway, I don't want to get it wrong. And they're collecting volunteers saying voluntarily, we say how many shares we have. But even that, you just go to the website. They haven't gotten a full count. It's not human nature. So what the criminals are counting on, the criminal funds, the criminal short sellers, and they're getting people to help them on Twitter, is they don't want that 600 million to 1.2 billion shares to ever see the light of day. They never want it to see the light of day. They don't want to have to pay taxes on their gains. And they don't want to go to jail, and they don't want to have to cover the positions. And that's why they're doing all this. That's why they attack people, they bully people, they scare people, they immobilize people. But the thing that scares the shorts most of all, let's use $1 billion. The things that scares them most of all about oil and gas, this is different than MULN. This is different than MMAT. Frankly, it's different, at least right now, than GTII. It's different than DBMM. It's different than Vocal. And these are just 5 of the stocks the SEC said the 2-time recidivist Kurt Kramer did these, using my own words, did these toxic convertible notes 325 times in a 2 or 3 year period. 325 times they know about in a 3-year period. And that's one just scummy group of guys. But all of the companies that Kurt Kramer, Jeff Easton, Ari Rubenstein, and others, Aubrey Advisors, in my judgment, all the companies they bring as fronts, so the hedge funds, which are your funds, they're the Stevie Cohens, the Blacks and the Flinks and the Griffins and the Blumenthals and the or whoever's the head of Goldman Sachs. I don't think that's the right name. Anyway, it's our big funds that are at an arm's length sponsoring Aubrey Advisors, who's now big, Anson Funds, who's now big, Jeff Easton, who's kind of puny, Kurt Kramer, who's a loser. But they are sponsoring them because they're the fronts for these big funds. The funds don't get scared. The funds are not afraid of anything we do. Nothing. They keep selling. Why? Because they own Ann Wagner. They own Maxine Waters. They own and have corrupted Gary Gensler. They own everybody else. They even own us to a certain extent because we believe the system works. And you know, as one CEO said to me, who I had dinner explaining this to up in New York, he said, how would they let that happen? Well, who's this amorphous they? We're all trained to believe this isn't happening, but it is. So what's the one advantage Nextbridge has as an oil and gas company? And guess what? They're playing over in Louisiana. Okay, I'll just give you hard energy, 2008. This is offshore, but it depends. It depends. There's a transition zone. You know, the oil doesn't know where the shoreline is. So some of these wells offshore are the same as they're doing in southern Louisiana. But here's one that did 970 barrels a day. For example, here's a well that's going to drill to 30,000 feet. It's going to cost $60 million. So what McCabe's done, he buys an interest, he sells it for cash and retains an interest, so it gets drilled by somebody else's money. $32,000 well. Anyway, I'm having a hard time finding results. But my point is, these are huge wells in Louisiana. And if one works, even 5%, 10% of it is going to be huge to Nextbridge. That scares the criminals. They know all they have to do is keep selling. They know no one's going to arrest them. And they know as long as they have fronts like Jeff Easton that smiles, as soon as the stock goes below a certain percentage, the company's going to have to do a reverse merger. And they can get 90% of their so-called their cash. They just sold stocks into existence. They didn't put any money at risk, but they can purloin that cash. They don't pay taxes on it. And in thousands upon thousands of stocks, their discipline is to keep selling, keep selling. Hire people that will bash on Reddit, bash on Twitter, get into space calls, disrupt things, make it uncomfortable, get angry, get people arguing with each other. What's the motive of that? Or are they being paid to help the shorts? Or are they being promised something? Don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to disrupt and give bad advice when we're all here trying, I think. I heard it on the space call today. Somebody said it so well. I think it was Junk Savvy. But it just, and then Curtis, amazing what Curtis said. Amazing what Curtis said. He said he knows that he has the blessing that he's not corrupt. He's not going to take any money. He's been offered. He's not going to sell anybody out. So he knows when he goes to work, he knows when he interacts with these characters, he has the blessing of knowing he's not corrupt. But what's the one thing, Jay Lee, that scares the shorts? Success. The only business in the world other than mining, the only business in the world, maybe other than having a hit song or maybe having a hit movie or having a drug that 2 billion people need to buy, or having a vaccine that's mandated to 8 billion people across the world and it's paid for by the governments. Other than those things, the only thing that scares a short in oil and gas is they drill a big well. It's the only business, Jay Lee, where you can put money in the ground. And in the case of the Oro Grande, they've already put money in the ground. They've drilled science wells. They've drilled deeper wells. They've drilled shallow wells. They've drilled horizontal wells. We don't know the results, but we know they went from 72% to 100% ownership. So what scares the shorts and the criminals and the counterfeiters is all of a sudden Greg McCabe can come to the market with a Netherlands Sewell Associates report, for example, or a Ryder Scott. And it says that the reserve report shows 7 billion barrels of oil recoverable, risked in these 4 categories: 1P, 2P, 3P, 4P, Mississippi. And we're going to use a price deck, not of $87. We're going to use $65. We're going to decline it 1% a month over the next 10 years. And here's our economic model. We're going to give 70% to prove producing. We're going to give 60% to prove behind pipe. We're going to give 50% to proved undeveloped. I'm making these percentages up. It always changes depending on where you are in the cycle. And we'll give 20% to the probables. And we'll give 5% to the possibles. And we'll do that arithmetic. And we come up with a dollar value, present value. We'll discount it at 12%, which is essentially those numbers I already gave to you. It's just discounting. In the one case, you're discounting it for the cost of money and etc. In the extreme case, you're discounting it for failure. But anyway, they come up with a number, and some firms like Netherlands Sewell, if you have a Netherlands Sewell engineering report, you can bank it. You can go to any oil and gas bank in the United States and you can borrow against it. They're that good. They're that trusted. But Jay Lee, the president, he may have been CEO for a while, but the president of Nextbridge of Netherlands Sewell just retired. I was just in Houston meeting, great guy, really great guy. He told me, his name's Danny Simmons. It doesn't matter, but he told me a bunch of stories. I asked him about the Oro Grande, but he told me a bunch of stories where they interfaced with their clients, and his answer is, you got to drill some more wells. Here's our reserve report. They're so conservative, but if you want to get more value, drill some more wells. So my point is, Nextbridge had those 6 wells I just read to you. They drilled 5 wells. I think it was in 2022. And they're drilling 5 wells. No, sorry. They drilled 5 wells in 2023. They may have drilled 5 wells in 2022. I'm unclear on that. And they're going to drill 5 wells now in 2024. They're doing exactly what Danny Simmons said. Go prove up your resource. Well, I'm telling you, it's not hard to prove up Blanket Sands. It's not hard to prove up a huge volumetric structure. At least in those 4 Ps. You may not get 100% credit, but you're going to get credit for this huge cavern of oil. And of course, it's not a cavern. It's not like you're getting a big bowl of oil. It has to go through the rock, and there's different rocks. You have to have enough porosity, but you also have to have enough permeability. If you think of a sponge, the big holes are porosity. Permeability is the ability, maybe not with a sponge, but with for water or oil to flow through. But you can prove that by drilling wells. So anyway, Jay Lee, I don't think you're going to be able to sell MMTLP ever. You may get a liquidity event in MMTLP from a lawsuit through the legal system. You may get a liquidity event in MMTLP from a lawsuit or results in Congress. You may get a liquidity event in MMTLP from a settlement created by Wall Street, but I think they need a sharp kick to the butt. Or some combination of all 3. A trigger might be that the IRS arrests somebody. Don't know. You don't know where the trigger is going to come from. But so those are what you're waiting for when you're in MMTLP. Right now, you have the choice with MMTLP, or they call it Nextbridge something. But you have the choice to convert to the real shares. You don't give up any of those. You don't give up the possibility to benefit from a lawsuit. You don't give up the possibility to get a liquidity event from Congress. You don't give up the possibility of having a liquidity event or payout from Wall Street. What you gain at Nextbridge is the possibility to get a distribution if one of the Louisiana well interests hit and McCabe sells it. You get the value, the count. You don't know it right now. I don't blame you for being skeptical, but a reserve report at some time will be done. I don't know who they use. My favorite firm on the planet for reserve reports is Netherland Sewell. They're number one. But there's others out there. There's Gustafson. There's Ryder Scott. There's other names they're not popping in my head, but they'll get a reserve report. So Jay Lee, what scares the shorts more than anything, the criminals, if there's a reserve report that comes out and oil's trading at 100 and they're able to make some assumptions that, for example, shows that my number of $185 a share is low and it could be $375 a share, Wall Street will lose. They will need to wear diapers like our president. Now, your argument is, well, then if I'm in MMTLP, they're going to make a settlement. But if I'm in AST, they won't. No. Remember, Jay Lee, just let me use that number. Let's say a reserve report comes out because the one thing the shorts can't prevent, if you drill down 7,000 feet, it doesn't matter the bullying on Twitter. It doesn't matter the misrepresentations and the clever uses of the English language to try to get debates and all that. None of that matters. If you drill into the Permian, I don't know when the dinosaurs died, but I think it was the Permian time, or maybe it was 60 million years ago. So 270 million years ago, dinosaurs were roaming the earth. The big plants and the big ferns and trees and the algae and all that settling in ponds, that all happened 270 million years ago. It doesn't matter what the people on Twitter say. It doesn't matter how many shares of MMTLP were sold out of Frankfurt, Germany. It doesn't matter how many shares of Torchlight were counterfeited out of Liverpool, England. Doesn't matter. That oil was created, apparently that's the theory, because of all that living material over eons. And it separated into oil and gas. Now, the people on Twitter can scare you. Oh, Nextbridge isn't doing anything. Oh, Nextbridge, you can't sell it. Well, I mean, okay. You're right. You're not going to be able to sell Nextbridge shares, at least not right away. I hope you're never able to sell Nextbridge in the stock markets. If they get Nextbridge trading, even on blockchain, and that large counterfeit blob is out there, Wall Street will destroy the value of your shares by creating, and they'll destroy the denominator. That's the only thing the criminals know how to do. Destroy the denominator. But I don't think Nextbridge is going to let that happen. So anyway, going back to the drilling, Jay Lee. They've drilled the science wells. They have the seismic. They've drilled other wells at least two that produced. I don't know if they're producing now, but they did a production test on 2 wells. I think they've probably done production tests on at least 10 wells, but maybe it's 15. That's a gap in my knowledge. People who don't know everything come to false conclusions. All right. So when they drill the 5 wells this year, it's either going to be a total of 20 or a total of 15, something in that range in the deeper zones of the Oro Grande. So anyway, Jay Lee, if by drilling those wells, an engineering report comes out at $375 value per share, and I admit I'm making that up, that's what scares the shorts. Because that's the advantage of Nextbridge. That's the advantage of owning this. By drilling down to where the dinosaurs were 270 million years ago, before the internet, before Twitter, before the concept of setting up derivative contracts in handwriting rather than over the digital wires, before the idea of selling one share from Germany into the Chicago exchange, and then you can flood the whole market with trillions of dollars of counterfeit shares. Before the idea of bribing the SEC, before the idea of contributing hundreds of millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation for really lousy speeches at lunchtime to the bankers, before the idea of reverse splits, before the idea of Torchlight, MMAT, MMTLP, before all of that, the dinosaurs ate plants, pooped in the shallow water, and the microbes went to work creating methane and hydrocarbons. So if you drill into it, doesn't matter what the criminals say, doesn't matter. What does matter is how many shares they can get, into the market illegally, and how many shares they can destroy the cap table with. That's their game plan. But I think McCabe's smart enough now, and Bert and the rest, not to do it. But the people on Twitter, that's what they want. They want to destroy the denominator. I don't think it's going to happen here. So anyway, Jay Lee, what shocks the shorts is if overnight, unexpectedly, out of the blue, there's a reserve report and it shows $375 a share. One, Nextbridge can raise money way above anything the criminals can do. Two, Nextbridge can pay out, as they produce, they can pay out a dividend, which the criminals are on the line for. Three, the criminals are on the line for closing out those positions. So when they thought they were going to have an ability to reverse split, they thought they were going to have ability to bankrupt the company, they thought they were going to have an ability to sell or box the shares, they thought the company would come back to them via Roth Capital. And I'm not blaming Roth Capital at all, but they're just good customers, maybe of Roth Capital. That's not going to happen. All of a sudden, the short position is out of control. The counterfeit position is out of control. I don't know how much they made selling 1 billion shares, because it was Torchlight, and I think Torchlight was maybe as high as $18, but it was Torchlight, it was MMAT, and it's MMTLP. But if we assume their average proceeds, the criminals, the hedge funds, the offshore, the LLCs, that let's assume their 1 billion shares is sitting there at $5. That might be high, but let's say it's sitting at $5. That means they have $5 billion sitting in prime brokers accounts, unless they've been able to move some. But let's start with 5 billion. And they need the stock to go bankrupt. They need the company to go bankrupt. They need the stock in pennies. They need to manipulate you to do nothing so that they can take as much as that 5 billion out without paying taxes. Maxine Waters has all got a hard on for Trump for being a white supremacist and being racist. I don't know if she notices all the men that do this are white. And it hurts brown, yellow, black, I guess is how it's called. White. It hurts everybody. But these few white men, she takes their bribe. So thanks, Maxine, for your false concern for people of color. So anyway, Jay Lee, you're not going to be able to sell Nextbridge, just like you can't sell MMTLP. But if an earnings report came out, a reserve report came out like that, and it could happen within a year, within 6 months, I don't know. All of a sudden, Wall Street prime brokers are asking for money from the criminals, and the criminals don't have it. So the prime brokers will scramble and they will settle. And they will settle with Nextbridge, but they probably, Jay Lee, will settle with your shares at MMT, your counterfeit shares. But it'll be a massive, massive settlement. But what's the key catalyst, Jay Lee? Sitting on our arse and leaving our shares in counterfeit, or moving enough shares that Nextbridge knows their share count, can raise enough money to drill their wells, and can improve the value astronomically overnight by drilling wells. It's the one thing about oil and gas. You can drill into the ground and create wealth and value on a scale that you can't imagine, either overnight or in a short period of time. That scares the shorts. They can't sleep thinking about it. That's why they're angry. That's why they try to get you to freeze. That's why they get you to ask this: how will we be able to sell our shares? So you can't. But Jay Lee, and I hope to God you never are able to sell Nextbridge on the market. But Jay Lee, if you listen to me, if we help Nextbridge drill wells, they might get a JV partner. They might sell the company. They might sell non-core assets. They might keep the company and start going into production. And their cash flow is so massive, they can pay huge dividends, bigger than what you can imagine selling your shares for now at MMTLP. We are in an illiquid investment, whether you're in MMTLP or Nextbridge. By sitting on your hands and saying to yourself, oh my gosh, if I go to Nextbridge, I'm not going to be able to sell right away. Okay, but you can't sell MMTLP. MMTLP will not trade, despite what they're telling you on Twitter. Those people on Twitter are working for the criminals. Stop listening to them. So anyway, you help move shares to Nextbridge. Nextbridge drills wells. The thing that is an existential fear to the criminals is that that Nextbridge is going to create essentially, when you think in terms of 270 million years, essentially Nextbridge over the next 12 to 18 months, 24 months, can create hundreds of dollars a share in value over essentially overnight compared to the dinosaurs. That scares the shorts beyond anything they can think. That's why they hire people for Twitter. They don't want that to happen. So what happens if Nextbridge is worth $300 a share? Everybody on Wall Street will come to you to buy your shares at $50. I hope you don't sell them then. And Jay Lee, you're thinking, I don't know what you put in. I paid $7.96 a share average for these shares, $8. If you paid $8, you're probably, I want my money back. I want to be able to sell my shares for $8. And if I move to Nextbridge, I'm not going to be able to do that. Well, you're not able to now. But guess what? All that upside I just told you about, and particularly if they go into production or if they sell shares, properties, part of their wells, they're non-core. They sell something in Louisiana for a big profit. They can make a distribution to you. And I'm willing to bet, Jay Lee, not very much. I'll bet $10. I'm willing to bet when they make a distribution, it may take 6 months. It may take 18 months. It could take 2 years. There's a point at which they should take their cash to drill and not distribute anything. But I'm talking about from operations, from oil and gas operations and transactions. Not from legal, not from Congress, not from Wall Street. I bet, Jay Lee, the first time they make a distribution, it will be bigger than anything you're trying to get by selling MMTLP now. And if your concern is I'm going to stay over at MMTLP and I'm going to be able to sell it, but if I go to Nextbridge, I won't be able to sell it. My guess is just the distribution, just the first distribution, will be bigger than anything we could sell it for now. And you'll still have your ownership. But I think, Jay Lee, we really have to, each of us, I had to do it for myself. I had to just absorb the fact that I couldn't sell these shares. And once you come to peace that you don't know when you're going to be able to sell the shares, but you realize that just because you can't sell them doesn't mean they don't have real value. Just because you can't sell them doesn't mean they're not valuable. If we move our shares to claim our real property, it's really likely we will start getting cash distributions, maybe sporadically, maybe as a dividend from oil and gas sales and property transactions that's bigger maybe than what we could possibly sell it for now if there were a market, or from the settlements from these trades. So Jay Lee, I'm sorry, I took a long time to answer your question. I think that's true, Clark. The hedge funds win every time. The only thing I'm thinking about, Clark, is there's no enforcement that's going to stop this unless an Irishman, an Italian, a Polak, I don't know, I'm making up, an African American in the FBI or in the Justice Department or at the IRS is just really angry at the injustice of it and that it's unfair and what it does to the middle class and the working class And there's an Elliott Ness there, not one of these privileged white boys up at the top of Wall Street. So my point is, Clark, I think you need somebody with the power to arrest to put a case together, and they're not bribable by Wall Street. They're not enchanted by money managers, and they don't want a job at Gibson Dunn. They're not looking to work for Goldman Sachs. They just want to enforce the United States criminal laws, not securities laws, wire fraud, transferring money offshore without paying taxes, hiding money, bribing, racketeering. That's, I think there's a hope there that somebody, an Elliott Ness, decides that the American Constitution, the American dream, the American way of life is worth fighting for. I don't support blockchain trading. I don't either. In MMTOP, no. What I think, to me anyway, and I'm, apparently I'm, according to different people, I'm a complete idiot, and I have no soul, and I come to false conclusions. But anyway, donkey donks, to me, yes, blockchain probably keeps an accurate record of the trade. Got it. But just like, and I think this is a mistake that Mark Bazile's clients have made, HPIL and VNUE. Those CEOs settled with the Kramers. I think it's a similar mistake that is being played in slow motion with finger motion. But I think finger's going to come out way ahead. But the idea that you settle with Lynn Partners, you settle with the Kramers, and they cancel the toxic convertible note, they take their warrants back, and they pay a little bit of a penalty, that somehow that solved your problem. No, that convertible note was in place to allow the creation of derivative products, credit default swaps, to allow lawyers to lie to prime brokers in triplicate, and to allow the system to start counting fitting shares on a scale that has no relation, none at all, to the toxic convertible note. They do it before it's signed, during when it's signed, and after it's bought back. Why? Because during it being there, it's a pressure valve. It can stop some. They can use it when the stock gets out of control, the shares that are there, to puncture a squeeze. But why is it there in the first place, even if it is closed off? It's to be able to get the lawyers to lie on the forms that are given to the prime brokers that say we can trade these shares because we have this protection. And just because it's closed out, those trading instructions that are in the computers are still there. The selling continues. And then, donkey donks, it's just the sheer size of the selling. It's so big, all those shares, the company can't even get from under it. So the selling keeps continuing because the toxic convertible note helped it go. But then once it's just so big, it's like an avalanche, or it's like a mudslide. At first it's a little bit, and then it's everything. They can't fight back. So anyway, that's with the toxic convertible notes. Donkey donks, that's how I see blockchain trading. I think blockchain trading is an attempt to get Nextbridge trading defined, trying to raise money in the markets. And I believe the criminals, the lawyers, the prime brokers, yes, this percentage of stock that's trading is recorded, but they're going to, in my opinion, and of course I can't prove it, they do it in the darkness, but they're going to create credit default swaps. They're going to create little agreements among themselves. They're going to create the ability to sell shares of Nextbridge from Prague, from Tehran, from Panama City, in size, in the markets that exist, and they're going to match it off against some sort of token. And I can't explain how they're going to do it. All I can tell you is just when they get Nextbridge trading, they're going to use that massive leverage of their criminality to, and it's like a leverage. It's like a lever. You know, you could move the earth if you had a long enough lever. They are going to create a long enough lever to move the price. That's my opinion. It scares me completely. I think Greg McCabe should not go on blockchain, at least until the short position's gone. But I don't think he should go on blockchain. I think Greg McCabe, if we can help him, Greg McCabe should get his shares. He should organize a settlement. I think it should be at over $1,000 a share. I don't want to spend the time showing you. I've done it on videos. So that he issues stock to the system. And I think Nextbridge not only will be the best funded independent oil and gas company in the Americas, it'll also be a financial powerhouse. And I think, at least initially, Greg McCabe will self-fund everything. He doesn't need Wall Street anymore. And I think Greg McCabe can go out and hire some retired trader, hire some help and make a market internally transparent. And it only trades, there'll be some rules and restrictions. It only trades with settlement. It only trades physically, and there's no short selling. The thing about short selling, they say, the reason they need that reg show, because of the freneticness of trading, they need to be able to sell shares of CAUD or shares of Logic or shares of MMTLP because it's so frenetic and they're such important customers, they got to be able to sell them before they locate them. Well, you can't call up your broker and say, you know what, I'm busy today. I've got to take the kids to school. I don't have time to stop by the bank. And on the way home on the way to lunch, I've got to bring my husband his briefcase, and I've got a doctor's appointment. But I'd like to buy 10,000 shares of GME. I'll send you that. Well, we used to do that, by the way. But I'll get the money to you later. They don't let you do that. But I got to buy it now because the price is moving. No, when you get the cash, when it settles in the account, we'll accept your trade. That's how Greg McCabe should do it. With internally, he can be his own market maker, his own market, and provide liquidity, transparency. But if somebody wants to sell the shares of Nextbridge, I think it should be done internally in his ecosystem. And if they don't have the shares ready to go, well, don't sell them now. We're here. We're always here. Thanks for calling. But why don't you deliver your shares physically before you sell them, and we're glad to take the order. Otherwise, have a nice day. That's what I think he should do. Are we getting a new board of directors on GTII? I do know that I am getting bored of these questions. Clark, for a lot of reasons, I just don't want to answer those questions. I spent 2 days and I spent phone calls. I've spent trips. I've engaged in a lot of phone calls. I intend to put my hat in the ring. I tend to fight. I intend to create value. I know I have strategies I haven't even talked about. I know how to catch out these criminals. I know how to do it. Know how to do it. And it's going to be with all of y'all's help. But I don't think talking about it, Clark, is smart. There's people, even though I'm just a peon, there's people on my calls that represent the criminals. There's people on my calls that represent all manners of interested parties. I just don't think, Clark, because you're impatient, I'm not picking on you, just because shareholders are impatient to know, that it makes any sense to talk about it so you can know. But I think what I can say is I really do not believe that the current status quo can go on much longer. I tried with as much body English and signaling and trying to talk to everybody in many videos, many lives. I tried somewhere last, I think it was July, may have been August, but I think it was July. I started making it clear to everybody that there was I used the term palace intrigue. There was, a little bit of a battle over control. There was, whatever, I forget what I said, a board disagreement, something like. Well, anyway, I made it really clear that GTII didn't have the law firm. The Treno mine was out there, but that the direction of the firm had to be sorted. Who was running it? Who was in charge? Whose vision? And that's been July. Well, we're almost up to July again. I don't think the limbo can handle much more. I think we were at I don't know. You can look it up in July. Maybe $3, $2. And I think, Clark, all along at various steps, I was looking at charts. There were points where I really emphasized there's opportunities to do a tax loss trade and buy back in 31 days later. Many people didn't listen to me, but that's a whole different perspective than, like Jim Cramer goes, buy, 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 buy. And more recently, because people were giving me shite, oh, you don't talk about GT, they're trying to put an albatross around my neck and accuse me of being someone I'm not. I've talked about GTII pretty harshly, very harshly in some ways, over the last weeks and months. And partly I did that just to trigger change. Well, the big difference is over the last year, the stock is now 9 cents. I don't know where it closed. $0.12. 12 cents. So it's time, Clark, to close the chapter on yesterday, put whatever team together and set about scaring the heck out of the shorts. The problem with their methodology and their strategy, beyond being a brain dead strategy, this is not intelligence. It's being able to buy lawyers who don't mind lying. It's being able to work with prime brokers to look the other way. And it's corruption. It's paying off the regulators, whether it's directly or in the perceived gain of a job at Goldman Sachs or a job at Gibson Dunn. Or Secretary of Treasury, or a big payout board of directors position at Carlyle Group. You know, hey Jehaj, what do you think about GMA, RK, and RC? Does he think it will squeeze soon? I've been saying for the last 2 or 3 years that I thought, and I never owned GME or AMC. I was fascinated by the squeezes, and it caught my attention. But since the Marvin Capital, since Stevie Cohen and Ken Griffin bailed out some shorts, since the ridicule that came, since the suppression, I thought other short trades were going to happen. But Wall Street has pretty much kept all the shorts under control, all the squeezes. So I think GM, so for this whole time, I think it was under control. But I listened to George Donahue, and I commend him to you. I listened to some others. There's a guy from the UK that talks with an accent, and he's always doing this, and the stock's going to go up and here, and so let's come in and talk about GME now. Before I get started, let's talk to hit the like, hit the subscribe, and then okay. And he goes like this, and then, and I listen to him. I listen to some other people. But I've never been had my mind changed. I think GME is totally under control. And my opinion is when it popped up out of the blue 3 weeks ago, went to 80 or whatever, I think it was coordinated. I think Roaring Kitty came back. He seems to not be corrupt, but maybe it wasn't a coordination he knew about. But I think that Ryan Cohen and the shorts took advantage of this big rush of money in, just like COSM did. They did a deal. So it went up to 80, came back down. Went up to 46, they did a deal, came back down. Went up to 30, I don't know how many deals they did. And now it closed at 28. So I think, Jay Hush, it's like a bouncing ball. It went up to 80. The next rally was to 60. Next rally is to 40. Next rally will be 30. Next rally will be 25. Next rally will be 20. And eventually, I think GME the ball is going to start bouncing around the value of the cash in the bank, probably at a discount. If I had to guess, it'll go back to $7, $8, $9 a share. Oh, but it's a great story in the long run. Yeah, I believe that. But I think people that are trading up here can at least get out with part, come back. You'll have a chance to buy it cheaper, I think, as a long run play. And now you're asking, does it squeeze? Well, there was all talk it would happen today. And now they're talking about next week. I don't think it's going to squeeze. But I'm a spectator. I hope people make a ton of money in it. I hope it squeezes. But I still have the advice I gave 3 weeks ago on it, or whenever it first ran, and every other time since. If you get rallies in GME, take some money off the table. Maybe take your whole position off the table and just buy some calls. Or if you don't want to do that, at least sell some higher calls and get that premium. Because they're going to bring it back down. What do you think of Oh, I just answered that. I bought 590 GTI. Well, that's good at 27. The question is, should you buy more at 12? I think you have to be careful. I hate talking against. I hate. I hate talking against a long-term, what I think we can make success. But remember, there are counterfeiters and short sellers in it. And as it goes up, there could be air pockets of selling. But GTII has that huge Alpine confirmed, NSCC naked short. So there's always a chance for a massive pop to the upside. It's always that chance. I don't know. If you listen to the guys that came on yesterday, I haven't a clue. Are you surprised I don't have GTII on my title? I've had it on there a lot. And flaming shooting bananas, I intend to be involved, although I have my parameters. If that doesn't happen, I'll still do my best. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but flaming shooting bananas, the trade in GTI is complete round trip, 9 cents to $9 and back again. Your guys won. You guys won that battle, and bravo to you. That you were down a lot. You got everybody go to COSM. The Kramer's position got taken over by Alpine, and Alpine's filing lawsuits everywhere. The FBI is investigating where it may even be Kramer tried to sell something like, they created a $4-6 million loss at Pacific West and walked away. There's short sellers out of Switzerland that were calling in. So we know that the criminals created the problem in GTII. But flaming shooting bananas, I know you don't own it. So you don't want any information on it. But I'm not here to give you or your short selling friends strategy. I'll give you an example. Larry King always asks the question, who invented freeze-dried coffee? Who came up with the idea? It's Apollo, of course. Now everybody knows about it. But until then, no one knew about it. And if I give you my ideas, I mean, they're as common as freeze-dried coffee. But you don't know about them now, and nobody else does. So I don't know why I'd put GTI on my title. I don't know why I'd talk about it. Knowing what you know, would you have imagined? I did invest in Torchlight. I think I own 22,000 shares of Torchlight. I can try to go recreate it. I bought Torchlight. I owned it for years. I owned Torchlight for 2 or 3 years. It kept going down. I had a lot of my investors in Torchlight. I negotiated to raise money for Torchlight. I got to meet all the principals at Torchlight many times. I visited with the geologists, not Rich Masterson, but others. So I would buy Torchlight back in time. The only thing I wouldn't do is buy Torchlight if they did a toxic financing. But they're not the only ones that did that. Good stuff, mate. Oh, what's your team football in Glasgow? How's Arsenal doing? E-Trade finally distributed the dividend. Really? I'll have to look. Let me see if they did it in my account. They didn't do it in my account. Well, no, I think, Clark, if they change the CEO, if they change people, there'll be a new board. But the COO seems entrenched. But anyway, Clark, it's not worth speculating with the whole world watching. You got my vote. Thank you, Clark. Hey, Frank. Hey, VL Warrior. Clark, when GameStop ran to 483, yes, catching them off guard. That's it, Clark. You see, you're thinking. If there's 20 variables, they got 19 under control. It's that one they can't control. And the biggest variable of all with Nextbridge, help Greg McCabe clarify his cap table, allow him to make a settlement if possible, but in the meantime, allow him the flexibility of raising money to drill wells. And as he proves it up, boys, the shorts couldn't short enough stock. The short couldn't bribe enough people. The shorts will not be able to get out of this MMTLP situation when Greg McCabe can go to Congress and say every single share of 165 million is allocated. And oh, by the way, we've drilled another dozen wells. And here is our reserve report from Netherland Sewell. And it indicates, in case you don't want to do the arithmetic, it indicates our per share value is $600. So all of those shares, Ann Wagman, that are in your client's accounts are counterfeit, because I can show you that. Here's my book. And your client Fidelity, your client Goldman, your client Morgan Stanley, they owe the investors $600 a share to start with. Boy, that'll get the bands playing. But the keys to getting that done, if you're listening to me, help Greg McCabe get his own shares in his account. Go claim your property, and he can negotiate. He can raise money, non-dilutive, and he can prove up these reserves. And you are going to strike a blow for freedom. Love, happiness, and wealth, and health, and a kiss from a puppy dog. Yeah, hey J Ron. J Ron, how are you? Hang in there. Remember, today is the best day you have right now. If they locked up MMT in court, why can't they do the same with GameStop or AMC? Well, you mean MMTLP. One of the reasons is GameStop and AMC are public trading. That's okay. I'm scared to go all the way up because I might freeze. So let me just go backwards. Yeah, they're going to keep robbing. DeSanctimonious received 72 million. Burn. I don't think it's all a uniparty. It's all a uniparty. And Wall Street's owned by the banks. It's controlled by the banks. Mark Maddox has a good political. My eyesight. Laughing my finger motion Arsoff. First, there were the dinosaurs. That's good. So you have Northwest Bio. I really like that as well. I really like that. They've destroyed it. It's a classic example of what the criminals do. They destroy the denominator, and then the company needs capital. And when the financiers look at it, they say, well, the stock's 40 cents. Yeah, but the value is $10. Well, we got to go by what the market says because the market knows everything. No, the market is a false, manipulated price, and Gary Gensler and Dina Friedman don't care about. But anyway, what I think is going to happen to Northwest Bio, it's going to get bought out. I'm going to start going a little more quickly because the computer is overheating and it could freeze. Hey, I said I did that. I don't know if Jennifer's still here. Can John Berta compare the Nobo list to what ASD Equity has? Yes, but I'm not sure he's going to have the Nobo list. I'm not sure he's going to have it because he's not inside anymore. But if he does have it, if it's current, he can compare it. And you're absolutely right, he can do that. If he has it, what happens, Jennifer, it comes and it breaks it down. It's like any computer printout you've ever gotten at work or at school. And it's all clear and how many shares outstanding. But then it lists every single person. Jennifer, 3,000 shares, 1271 North New Jersey Lawn, Winnowpack, New York. I don't. Might even have the phone number. Might even have when you bought it. But yeah, he could do that. He could definitely do that. And Okay, the Nobo. And if he had it, there's an argument, Jennifer, from a guy that used to work on the Amex, that if there's counterfeit shares, it would show up on the Nobo list. In other words, you would have a list of owners, and then you could match it off, and you could see the short position. I just think he's wrong because he's so honest. He believes that the system is honest. The Novo list is going to show what Jennifer has, but then it's going to show what Morgan Stanley has, and it won't show the breakdown. But you know that already. I don't want to waste your brain power listening to me. Yes, that's right, Donkey. That's a good analogy. When MMTLB gets settled, will it show up in a trading account or receive a check? Well, there's so many Star 8 cash. There's so many ways it could settle. If your broker dealer, and I'm surprised the smaller ones haven't started to do that. If your broker dealer were to call you in kind of a gray market and say, we're a buyer of MMTLP for $12. Do you have an interest? And if you said, yes, I do, they'd say, well, we're showing in our account you have 500 shares, and we just need you to sign a release. That release will probably say you can never sue them, you never sue anybody else, and you give up all rights. You sign it, they'll say, okay, as soon as we receive it, the money will be in your account, and that could happen. If, on the other hand, it goes through one of those other three channels, my guess is the settlement would still, the most efficient way would be through your broker dealers, because it's your broker dealers, after all, who are responsible to you in the first instance. So if there's a broad settlement, it would probably get paid out through the system, but to your broker dealer, then paid in your account as they retire your shares. I suppose it's also possible that if it goes the legal route, that a judge has all parties agree a system, and she wants to handle it out of her chamber. She wants to handle it out of a trustee that she assigns. And if that were the case, I would imagine the broker dealers would have to submit the shares, and you would receive your cash, with your instructions or with your letter, and with your release, and you would receive your cash as a wire or a check from the trustee. There's too many ways to really eliminate all of the ways. I know you like that idea of different scaled in prices. I don't think they'll do that. They might do it by offering to buy back shares. The Al for Boston show has a new video out. Exposed, Mark says, DJT stock manipulation by Citadel. I'd like to see that. I'll look it up. Okay, here's John's example. I kind of like this. 500 a share times 40 million shares. This is if they did an offering originally, like was proposed with Roth Capital, or maybe they do it as a settlement. 20 billion. They dividend $20 a share, leaves 14 billion for operations. Yeah. I'm not going to question your arithmetic because I'll get it wrong. And what if, John, you expanded the 40 million to 200 million or more? It, as you can see, the numbers add up quickly. But what it does for Nextbridge, they don't ever need Wall Street again. Luxury. We used to dream of a cavern in oil. Luxury. We used to get up half an hour before we went to bed. I forget how he gets to it. Our father would kill us and dance around on our graves. Ah, yes. You tell the children of today that they don't believe you. Ah, no. That's it, John. The only thing they fear are the losses, which result in massive losses. And they will come trying to settle. And it'll be low ball bid at first. Yeah, I like your example of the 40 million share offering. I actually think now there might be, based on, I listened to the space call today, there might be, you know, I always said you needed a Dagny Tabbert to take control. It might be that it's McCabe. But anyway, my point being, there might be even a bigger solution out there. But what will be interesting with this settlement, that whatever the Camco or whatever settlement, maybe they can start moving on that 40 million share offering. That'd be interesting to watch. All right. AST Brent 1387. Greetings from LaForge Parish, home of the Valentine Project. Let's look that Valentine Project up. Let's look up that Valentine Project. Here it is. Nextbridge has purchased the portions of 4 drilling prospects from Wildcat Special Purpose Vehicle in exchange for 2.5 million shares of Nextbridge stock. Valentine, Panther, Cowboy, and Packer prospects. The company sold its ownership in Valentine and Panther for net revenue of $1 million. They'll receive a location fee of $240,000 on the first well of the Valentine. And they have all the rights below 19,500 feet in the Valentine. Pretty exciting. So Brent, that's exciting. The Valentine Project is exciting. You should soon receive a statement. I never got mine, but Deacon also, you can call in to Xfinity or whatever it's called, and they'll tell you over the phone. Deacon, I believe if Nextbridge is sold for shares of Exxon Mobil, yes, that's true. And they might be able to counterfeit some of the Exxon shares. Bill Michael, Ace mentioned that Drew is bashing Finger. I'm still holding my 17,500 shares of buying pot more. Another Florida state. Finger is going to be just fine. Bashing's not going to help. Bashing's not going to hurt. Finger's going to be just fine. They don't need the money from the criminals. All right, Noble Entertainment, 6,748 shares. Yay! You're going to be rich, maybe. By the way, when I say things like you're going to be rich, it's just opinion. Anything can happen in oil and gas. We don't have all the information. Change the thermal paste on the CPU and GPU. All right, I'll take it in. Darn it. I just want to go buy a computer. Cash. Deacon Blues says, Lee, I think Nextbridge will be sold for shares in a big oil company. Yeah, that's very possible. Or, Deacon, it could be a joint venture and part of the upfront payout could be shares. Peace. Oh, happy Father's Day. Celeste, my right foot is feeling great. My left foot is much better, but it's not perfect yet. And they're much better. Thank you very much. My dog is better. And every time I walk down the street, I always say hi to all the dogs, at least the ones the owners let me. And if I were walking down the street in your neighborhood, I'd come over and I'd say hi to Sheriff. I'd probably call him Popcorn, and I'd say hi to you. And I would rub his ears and try to get him to do all the things wrong, like jump up on me and say hi. And I'd give you a kiss on the top of your head. If we transfer, will we be waiting for a buyout of Nextbridge? Or will Jay Lee. I'm not, I think there's a big push for Nextbridge to go trading. I really don't believe it will. I think the principals have had all the fun they can ever have dealing with a public company when criminals can destroy the share value and just take money that should belong to shareholders out. So no, I don't think Nextbridge or MMTLP will ever trade. I don't know. It's just my opinion. I think we as shareholders would be better off if Nextbridge never traded. That's true, Deacon. See, Deacon's smart. Transfer agents can help you facilitate transactions. But Nextbridge isn't public now. It's not part of the system. And I heard on the space call today, which I wasn't sure of, but it's almost like a private transaction. You're not allowed to transfer your shares, as I understand it, which is like a private transaction, without getting approval from the company first. So I can't sell my shares to Deacon without getting approval of the company first. And it probably won't happen. I think the fan and air passages might be clogged in your laptop. It's an Apple though, and opening it up, I'll probably crack the screen. So I'll take it in. I'll take it in and have them do it. Not bored at all. Thank you. Maybe I'm getting to the point we can. We're done. Okay, let me skip over these. Okay, here. Envoy, will they do a bail-in bonds and cover it after the closing? They will. Yeah, I think there'll be some clearinghouses failing. I don't know, Envoy, you may be right. But here's my big question. Are people around the world going to trust the Fed again? I guess they will, because they'll have no choice. Gansler. Deacon Blues. I was the one who begged you to transfer to AST last summer. Yes, Deacon, you did. I remember that. And I was putting up resistance, right? So it shows I can change my mind. But you did. I remember you told me about how to do the IRA shares. I was a little bit frozen myself on that. So thank you very much, Deacon. I really wish I had either kept my torchlight or I had bought earlier on, but I was skeptical. Anyway, I'm glad to have what I have. I'm just not going to be as rich as you, Will. Maybe, possibly. I remember Richard saying multiple billionaire revenue if mentioned. I'm not going to comment, Pharaoh, but Richard is an honest man. I didn't see any press releases. What? You saw John Hurry last week at my AJ's Fine Foods off Scottsdale Road. I guess this is all of this going on is really interrupting his life. Was he with his daughter, his girlfriend, or his matriarch? Kind of sad to hear Ham's thoughts on GME. I think GME has a lot of positive variables. Well, do your trades. My guess is, Meeker, you're just doing day trades to sell it, hit and run, and you'd love people to come in and buy, and they're not as good and disciplined as you are at trading, and they leave money on the table, which collectively all of you guys pick up. But Ham didn't say anything bad about GME. He's just talking about trading. And you know what? Today he was right. Meekers, you were wrong today. Monday's a new day. Monday's a new day. And you may be right. Hey, Eunice. I know. I was hoping to see green. Lalesia. I'm holding GTII for a loss. I'm going to say it's the most corrupt thing I've been involved with. I enjoy William and the community. Yeah, it's hard to fight these bastards. My wife and I have a combined 25,000. All right, so Deacon Blues. I'm going to take $385 a share times 25,000. You're going to be rich. You could be worth $10 million now on paper, and it could get better. On the other hand, don't start counting your shekels, because anything can happen, both in the oil patch in the world. But Deacon Blues, I think you're going to, when you said you're going to try to have one big trade and then you're leaving the market, what a trade. What a trade. Congratulations. Good job. Very good job. RW. William, I heard you are a pumper. Can you explain why every effing thing is red if you're a pumper? Well, I'm not going to talk about one of those, but let's just look at the possibility. No filing on Logic. There is a filing on today on Trump Media. It's an amendment to the S1. And there's no summary. I always go to the summary. There it is. Summary of this. This summary highlights selected information, background. Anyway, whatever. They amended the S1. They can issue up to 14 million shares and a resale terms. I don't know. It doesn't look like they're doing it right now. It's just in place to be ready to do it. So that's what's there. Now let me see on your, what's the other one? Okay, Finger. Let me see if they had anything. May 30th, so that's not recent. There's no real filing. Oh, I didn't do TLO. May 13th. No, there's no, in my quick look, there's no news on any of them. They're red because the counterfeiters sell. And I think TLO is in the middle of trials, and TLO has the potential to have a massive story on the idea of their therapy. Problem is, if they need to raise money and they do it with a criminal, they're going to do the same dilutive crap. They don't listen to me, they don't know me, but I'll see if I can get them to think not to do that. But anyway, TLO, I really think, and remember, one guy bought the entire offering. There's a big short, but man, they keep selling it. They just keep selling it. Finger, that's all they do, RW, is sell. But I think Finger, I'm not talking about a short squeeze. Finger has the best insurance company for warranty working with AppleCare. It's not, AppleCare is just a nickname. It's just the warranty on the 5G phones. The reason it's been slow to roll out has nothing to do with the insurance company or Finger. It's that China is going province, or whatever it's called, by province with the 5G, and they're mandating people buy 5G, but they also they're mandating the warranty, and that means they have to build kiosks and places for repair. That's at the cost of the insurance company. So it's been a little bit slow, but once that kicks in, Finger Motion will have 25% of the annual premium, and it's on how many ever phones they have, and it's nearly all profit margin. They're going to have the monetization. They're going to start making money on Pacific Life Re and Munich Re in insurances, and the lab is in either the second or stage 3. That laboratory is set up to study big data. Well, that big data beyond insurance could be where there could be a major new contract. But I don't know anything about it. But maybe that could happen. They have ongoing the ability to buy minutes at a discount and sell them. That's the revenue that keeps the lights on. It's not going anywhere. It's as safe as a TiVo. They have in Southeast Asia, the Netflix of Southeast Asia, it's nicknamed, and they're growing that. They have the, they make money every time anyone shops online. And they have this app that goes through them on the phones that it's 440,000 locations to charge your EV car. I'm telling you, RW, the criminals are shorting Finger. Finger doesn't need the criminals' cash. What their strategy is to drive it down so that Finger would increase its 52 million shares outstanding maybe to 500 million. So any of the good stuff I just told you wouldn't matter on a net asset value per share basis. However, Finger is never going to take a financing from Jeffrey Lind or anybody on Wall Street that dilutes its shares. And Finger doesn't need the revenue. The money. The revenue is going to start coming in. And that's the one thing the criminals don't want in Finger. What's going to happen is Finger's revenue is going to go up. Its cash flow is going to go up, and its earnings are going to go up. And I think in the second quarter of Finger Motion's 2025 reporting, which is our third quarter 2024, you're going to see numbers which may be positive in earnings, but you're going to see numbers that we can extrapolate that's going to lead the Finger being $5, $6, $7 a share and maybe higher, never looking back. And so the criminals can keep selling Finger. It's not going to stay down. Finger is not going to dilute its denominator. Finger is not going to go to the criminals for money. Unfortunately, we have to wait. I think every time they give you stock at these prices, it's a gift. They could get it to go lower. But Finger is going to perform fundamentally. And eventually that will translate into price. I think with TiVo, it's such a compelling story, and there's a large short. I don't know when, though. And there's some risks in where they're going to get their financing. The CEO is great. I really like him, but he's a babe in the woods in the sense of being fleeced by Wall Street. On the other hand, when I was talking to him, he's very smart. He's very quick. He's a Vietnam pilot, a PhD, and MD maybe, but he's really smart. I think he gets finance right away. So I'm not worried about TiVo. DJT is being manipulated. I think DJT, once it goes over around $52, it's going to go to 100 and maybe higher. And all I can say about red wine, go to my head, make me forget that I still need her so. I'd had sworn that with time thoughts of you would leave my head. I was wrong, and now I find just one thing makes me forget. Red, red wine. Stay close to me and be the only one for me. Red, red wine. Anyway, I'm just not into wildcatting and it's too risky a business. Well, if you own Nextbridge, you're not wildcatting and you're not risking any money. So it is very risky. I'd say 5%, 10% of wildcats work. I feel like my own experience is even worse than that. But you're not risking any money to wildcat Big Alabama and Nextbridge. What McCabe did was buy, I think, I don't have enough data here, but I believe those 4 projects are wildcats. But he bought them and then sold them for a profit while retaining a percentage of the upside and retaining the deep. So he doesn't have to drill the deep. Somebody else could drill, or somebody else could drill it this time and ask him he's going to want to put up money. He says no, when he goes get a joint venture partner to pay for the whole thing. So you're not risking anything in wildcatting. You're not risking anything. GTII just too crooked for me. She was just too crooked for me. She was just too crooked for me. I almost have the song. I'd rather play, buy silver. By the way, yesterday somebody asked me about SLV. I assumed he was talking about silver and just had abbreviated it. But after I signed off, I remember that's the symbol for the silver ETF. You can trade it, but if you're buying it to protect yourself against a financial meltdown, just know that they don't have physical silver. It's all paper. GTII came out committed to committed to Liberty Bibberty, Billy. Hey, nobody calls me Billy except my kid sister and my kid brother, my nieces and nephews, my girlfriends occasionally, and good friends. You don't have permission to call me Billy. Drew has forgotten more about the stock market and no. As far as I know, he never worked on the stock market. And I know a bit where he worked, but whatever. That's why I won't have a civil conversation with him. I think I had a conversation with him yesterday, Liberty Bibberty. I believe I had a conversation with him yesterday. I stayed here until it ended, and I think I was very civil. The lack of civility, I think, comes maybe not from him, but the lack of civility comes elsewhere, as they say in upstate New York. What was the ask? What was the ask? I don't see the ask. But of Greg, if you're still here, one thing that happens after stocks stop trading, and then in the case of GTII, they have a little bit after hours, but it's not really trading after hours, I don't think. I just think they're matching off orders that they didn't do during the day. I could be wrong. But lots of times when they stop trading in a stock, they move the bid and ask wide because they don't want to buy any shares. They don't want to sell any shares unless it's, quite profitable. Oh, GME. Oh, no. Um, Dominic, just go to Mexico and walk across. Crypto fan, Biden's not going to be Dems candidate. Newsom will be. I think it'll be Hillary. But there's only 5 choices. There's Jill Biden, so it'd be Joe. There's the Harris's, Kamala. There's the Clintons, Hillary. There's the Pelosi's, Newsom. And there's the Obamas, Michelle. I think the most likely candidate will be Hillary, but others say Michelle. Maybe they'll go with Joe and we'll get Kamala Harris as president. I don't think it's going to be Newsom, though. Yeah, Nunya, I agree. The Democrats are nightmare. Deacon, I think you're going to be rich. Rich as a some bitch. All right, let's come back down here. Maxine Waters identifies as white male privilege. All right, I'll get off. What time is this, Antonio? 7:36. All right, I won't compete. I won't compete with legal advice. Let me just quickly, maybe I should invest in a new computer. Yeah, it is ancient. It's, yeah, it is. Thanks for calling. All right, I'm going to get off because Not Legal is live. Has anyone told me I look just like the actor Henry Winkler? Yes. Yes, they have. And in fact, I met Henry Winkler. I spent a night with him at Janet's, and he's a great guy. I have a picture somewhere. I probably lost it. I probably lost that picture on a phone. But he's great. I met him, and it was great. I didn't think I looked like him, but I've been told that. Yeah, I like Northwest Bio. I like Northwest Bio. I shouldn't have said that your friends are short sellers. I should have said they're smart fellers. Your friends are smart fellers. Sorry, I get going and I got sometimes I misspeak. All right, good night. Go watch Not Legal Advice. Please go watch Not Legal Advice. So good night to everyone. Pray for peace. Pray for Jenny L. and pray for children in the world.